So we were one of the first guys in the world to be doing 1-hour deliveries. We went through Y Combinator in 2015. We serve about 5,000-6,000 customers per day.
Was this because you had the experience in San Francisco?
Yeah, so that's part of the thing. I think if I did not have that exposure, I would not have thought this up.
皆さんこんにちは。世界のスタートアップ情報を発信するスタートアップバックパッカーです。会社を辞めてバックパッキングしながら世界のスタートアップや VC を取材してます。今回はシリコンバレーでスタートアップ勤務を経験した後にバングラデシュ最大の e コマースのスタートアップを立ち上げた方をインタビューします。シリコンバレーでどういった学びを得たのか、でそこからどう今の企業のアイデアにつなげて成功したのかみたいなところをですね、伺います。
Now I'm with the co-founder of Chaldal. It's an honor to have you, Wasib. They're, one of the biggest late-stage startups here in Bangladesh.
I guess the journey started when I was in university. I did not really have much understanding of what startups are because coming from Bangladesh, you don't really get exposed to how software gets written or how companies scale or anything like that. I went to university in the US and, my education is in finance and my plan was to join like a bank or a asset manager. But when I was graduating, it was 2008. So at that point, there were no openings in finance, if you will. And I wrote to someone that I'd just done some work with and asked them if I could go and join their startup. So they were doing a wiki for investing. So I was writing like research articles over there. And my introduction to startup was that I go into an office in San Francisco. And the first day I'm there, hey, I'm here. Where do I sit? So he's like, here's a drill machine. There are some IKEA desks downstairs. Why don't you make your table and sit anywhere you like? It was very shocking, right? And it was 2013. And at that point, basically, I was heading product at that company. I felt like, I had sort of reached my creative potential. And I thought of coming back to Bangladesh and trying to do something. And I had like two of my friends. So we were actually having two different conversations about two different businesses. And we started researching on how e-commerce works in various countries, like how Alibaba was established, how Flipkart was established. And it sounded like, e-commerce is like electricity. It's needed in this country. So we studied the business models and we realized that we probably need a lot of investment for e-commerce. But one thing that we could do, which would sort of encourage customers to order over and over again, was if we focused on grocery, on daily needs. So that's the main reason why we started on the grocery thing. And the other thinking was that if we can deliver things like a fish, we can deliver phones or clothes. But if we started with delivering like clothes or something, we wouldn't actually have a competitive advantage. And if someday someone like Amazon came to Bangladesh, we probably would not stand a chance. So we focused on setting up a grocery delivery startup in 2013. Like our first day at startup was like basically we'd go to shops, we'd take pictures, we'd put up a website, and when people ordered, we'd go and run and bring the things. And we soon realized that doesn't work. So we decided that we need to have our own warehouses. And we realized that we could do deliveries really fast around the dark store because we were using bikes and motorbikes. So we were one of the first guys in the world to be doing 1-hour deliveries. We went through Y Combinator in 2015, and then basically we got the IFC, which is the World Bank, as an investor. And we operate 19 micro warehouses around the city. We serve about 5,000-6,000 customers per day. We are now working on a fintech product where our customers can actually use Chaldal to make payments to other companies or things like that. So we are basically at that stage of the company where we are hoping that this can grow another like 50 to 100x. I guess the key challenge in Bangladesh has obviously been the fact that culturally most people don't understand how startups work. I mean, it's a lot better right now. So the idea of like venture funding, for example, is very new into the country. When we started, we could not raise any capital locally. In fact, until 2008, we had not raised any local investment. We were always dependent on foreign investors, foreign angels sort of supporting us.
I would really want to ask about your early days on like how you actually did this. Was this because you had the experience in San Francisco?
Yeah, so that's part of the thing. I think if I did not have that exposure, I would not have thought this up. And that's actually one of the reasons why Bangladesh is very much behind, because not very many Bangladeshi kids actually have that exposure. When I was working in the startup ecosystem, I knew a lot of Indian people in other startups, but there was no Bangladeshi who worked for a startup. Even today, I think the number of Bangladeshis working in startups in San Francisco is probably less than 50. Startups are becoming more mainstream. So, and obviously there is a startup sort of revolution happening around the world, also in Bangladesh, right? The government is trying to promote it, as is like the World Bank and all of these institutions.
I see. And I believe, because at that time there weren't many venture capitals, did you need to be like profitable from?
No, we were not profitable, but we were never allowed to be very undisciplined about how we do things. The only time we were profitable was during COVID for a few months. But again, like in a growing company, like during COVID, like we grew like I think 600% in a day. But basically, these are tough problems to solve. It requires you to have care for food safety. So it's not like you're putting out a software and it just grows, right? We would all like to be in that business where we just put out a software and it grows. But I think it's never as straightforward as that.
When you actually started this business, I believe there weren't many like competition. I guess you were one of the first, e-commerce platforms that was.
Yeah, there wasn't many competition, but competition is not necessarily, doesn't have to be the same channel. Like people get their groceries in one way or another. So your competition is actually people's existing habits. Like they like to go to the store and they like to look at their fish before they buy it. So you have to be better than that experience of going to the store. And people also have a lot of free time. If you're promising them to save time, you can't be late on your deliveries. And that itself is a very hard technical problem. In a country where like the roads are like sort of broken, the traffic is unpredictable, how do you commit to a delivery time? And then you're delivering perishable products. So you can't just load up a truck and send it. So you have to be very careful about how you're doing that while not damaging the products that you're delivering. So basically, if you're getting more and more orders, and then we have warehouses around the city, so every single household is technically, if there is no traffic, probably a 5 to 7 minutes from our warehouse by bike, right? And then you need to avoid the traffic. So you can't use like large vehicles like a car. You have to use like motorbikes, bicycles. I mean, we've been just analyzing the data, right? There are houses, you need to know exactly their location because Bangladesh is a country where the mapping was not done or still not done. So we were one of the companies that built up the mapping databases. So we know exactly that Mr. X lives on floor 4 of this particular latitude, longitude. And then we know that this building has an elevator and this building doesn't, so that we can estimate our orders much better.
But I believe, the EC market has been developing, as in like more big players are coming in, I guess.
Easy e-commerce?
Yes, like I guess Amazon.
Yeah.
Maybe Uber. So how do you actually see that?
I think Amazon, if you look at the DNA of the company, it developed as a bookstore. So it's used to delivering non-perishable things. If you have books and you're keeping the book in a warehouse, you don't have to worry about it for a month. But if you buy some tomatoes and you're not able to sell the tomatoes in like the next 8 hours, you have to worry about the tomatoes. So it's actually a harder problem, which is why we feel that as a startup, we actually have an advantage. And in fact, we actually believe that there's an advantage of solving this in Bangladesh. The labor costs are low. So that means that we can apply people where processes don't exist. Building a process is about collecting a lot of data points. And the question is that how cheaply can you collect these data points? It's actually cheaper to do it in Bangladesh to find this exception and make a nice system.
And testing things.
Okay. You can test a new idea at a very cheap cost.
And in that sense, I guess having capital and getting investments is important factor for success.
Yes, capital is important for you to collect the data points and to get like a competitive advantage.
I'm really curious on like how you were actually able to convince these like investors to actually invest in Bangladesh, where there's not much success cases.
For a lot of these investors, they believed in the team. A lot of the investors saw our traction, that we were growing, etc. Conceptually, it's not difficult to understand online grocery. So investors understand that there is something over there. The question is that how quickly can you execute it? And no one in the world can actually tell you how quickly you can execute it because of the simple reason that the data points don't exist.
So, like, what would your future goals be now? I know you're in your Series C now, and like
our future goal right now is to basically IPO the company in Bangladesh. I mean, we are building a company that can compete with Amazon. If you can serve fish with like bad roads, poor infrastructure, no addresses, no credit cards, no USPS, like Amazon had United States Postal Service, great US roads, credit card infrastructure, relatively high regional literacy. I don't know if Amazon could have been Amazon if it started in Bangladesh. So we have to solve a different set of problems to cover that thing. And my expectation is that the city that Dhaka is, this kind of cities like Cairo, Lagos, Bangkok, all of these cities needs a very different kind of innovation to crack them, right? We see grocery as a way to be the Amazon in these cities.
Do you have any like ideas for expansion?
We do want to go into Thailand, but once we have the IPO and everything, so basically we do want to expand. Like, we think that our technology will work anywhere. And my dream would be Tokyo. So I think Tokyo is like the dream market for us. Like if we can, I feel like if we can get to Tokyo, and if you can solve Dhaka and Tokyo, the rest of the world is going to be like piece of cake.
Definitely,
Because
definitely.
Tokyo, you have very high standards in terms of quality,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
今回も非常に学びの多いインタビューだったと思います。アメリカでのそのシリコンバレーで学んだことを母国に持っていって、スタートアップという形で還元したというような事例でした。やはりその、スタートアップの概念とかがシリコンバレーとかの方が全然発達してて、そういった情報がバングラデシュにないからこそできたというような話だったと思います。やっぱりそういう学びとか環境みたいなところが非常に大事だと思うので、今となっては本当にいろんな国でスタートアップとかが結構出てきてると思うんですけど、なんだかんだでやっぱりそういうシリコンバレーとか発達してるところに行って、いろんな人から学ぶっていうのは非常に良い経験なのかなと思います。で、今回の場合、Y コンビネーターっていうそのシリコンバレーの有名なアクセラレーションというか起業をしているようなプログラムにも参加されてたということで、そういった意味でも非常にシリコンバレーから学びを得て起業しているというような方でした。で、実際にやられてる事業もかなり挑戦的というか、e コマースが本当に最近出てきたみたいなタイミングで、バングラデシュというそういう環境とかがすごい対応が難しいような中で、しかも食品っていうのはやっぱ腐っちゃうんですごい難しいけど、すごいずっと挑戦してきたみたいなところ本当に面白いなと思っていて、で、これからも上場も見据えて動かれていると、海外を見ているということで本当に楽しみなスタートアップだなと思いました。で、やっぱりバングラデシュとか他の国が特に抱えている課題、なんか例えばインフラが整えないとかそういうのはいっぱいあると思うので、そこをいかにその自国独自の問題っていうのを見つけて海外企業との差別化を図っていくみたいなところ非常に重要なポイントだと思うので、日本で起業する上でも、どこで起業する上でも本当に意識しないといけない、本当に長期で大きい大手企業を作るのであれば非常に大事な観点なのかなと思います。はい、それこそやっぱりその環境、自分もっとより良い環境に身を置きたいということであれば、もちろん日本内のそういう良い企業コミュニティを見つけるとかでもいいですし、他のそういったシリコンバレーとか別の国の空気を触れるっていうのも非常に重要なのかなと今回インタビューをしていく中で感じたことです。こういった有益なスタートアップ情報をどんどん流しておりますので、ぜひチャンネル登録いただけると嬉しいです。ありがとうございました。